Hello, thank you all for coming. My name is Doug Thompson, and I'm a program manager on the Xbox platform team here at Microsoft. I'm honored to introduce my manager, Eric Brechner, to the Microsoft Research Visiting Speaker Series. Eric's here to talk about his new book, Agile Project Management with Kanban. Now, Eric is not one to brag, so I will do it for him. Amazon has this as the #1 rated hot new release in software design and engineering. Kind of a big deal. Several years ago, Eric assembled a team for the engineering services in Xbox, and I was a proud member of that team. I was lucky to be on it. At the time, we were all using TFS, which is the Microsoft internal bug and work item tracking system, to manage our work and deliverables. Eric made a declaration once the team had kind of got into a groove and established our roles. He said, you guys need to use Kanban. We must use Kanban to be better, because he'd found that it was such a success in his previous teams. It was a good thing we did that, because Kanban's Agile methodology would provide an awesome framework for us. We welcomed the change and found the migration from the waterfall-like world that we had been in to Kanban to be natural and straightforward. We could really visualize our work on a day-to-day basis and see the emerging patterns easily. Our team broke free from the TFS and Kanban and waterfall world and landed in an environment that allowed us to work efficiently and consistently to produce high-quality deliverables. All of that is great. But the thing I've appreciated the most about Kanban and what you're going to learn about today is its versatility and ability to mold around the team. Eric has a few Kanban boards in the team's hallway. You just walk down it. Each board runs differently, is managed differently, but they all have the same results. It adapts to the various personalities, since the whole point is to visualize your work. Some people want to get very granular with how they manage their stickies, as Eric is going to show you. Some people like to manage them at a high level. But it doesn't matter as long as everything is being tracked and followed accordingly. That's the beauty of Kanban. Each team member contributes to the Kanban. There's a whole sense of camaraderie and culture around it. There's a day-to-day conversation and openness that we have. There isn't a central Kanban boss, but there is a team mentality. So after using Kanban for a few years now, the thing that I can tell you that I appreciate the most is that our team not only delivers features at high quality, but I appreciate the shift in culture that Kanban has fostered. Kanban is awesome. And with that, it is a privilege and honor to welcome Eric Brechner up here to tell you all about it.
Thank you, Doug. I'll pay you the $20 later. No, that was awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you all for coming out and letting me talk to you for a little while about this. Most talks, of course, have slide decks and things like that, or just a chair and someone talks. I'm going to do this a little differently. I'm going to actually create for you on the board a Kanban board, and I'm going to use it for this talk. Okay? So I'll just take you right through it. Now, some things you should know about me in advance that Doug didn't cover, but I'll cover them very quickly. So I've been a developer since I was a professional developer, paid for it since I was 15 years old. I worked at many different companies, including soon will be my 20th anniversary here at Microsoft. All this kind of adds up to my receding hairline. But what I've had in common all of those years is I'm a little, as my wife can attest, a little OCD about how I do things. I really like being super efficient about everything that I do. I'm constantly trying new ways and new things to just do a little better. And over the years, just about any methodology you could imagine in software development, I've given a try. And the reason why I wrote this book on Kanban is because I have finally found my own little slice of nirvana. It's amazing. Doug talked about it. I'm not going to belabor that point. But it's so simple. The book is really thin, and that's because it really doesn't require much to describe it. I do cover everything you'd ever need to know in this book, so I hope you pick up a copy and I'll cover some of that today and answer your questions. But it's a remarkable thing. So, without further ado, let's create a Kanban board. A Kanban board is very simple and the only thing you need in order to actually use Kanban. There's no separate planning meetings, no separate retrospectives or anything. It's just the board. And yet it works as a project management tool for just about any workflow that you happen to have. So, with that, let's get started. The first part of the Kanban board is the backlog. So this is the collection of stuff you need to do. You don't want it all sitting in your head or something like that. You need to write it down. So you write it down on a sticky, which we'll be doing, and you put it in the backlog. Simple as that. After the backlog, you have your steps. So the steps today that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be answering your questions. So what are the steps to answering your question? Right? Well, first step, and this won't come up much, but it can come up, and I want to make sure that I capture it, is that you may need to break down that question. Sometimes people ask really big questions, and they're actually made up of lots of small questions. So the first thing I'm going to do is break down the questions. So I'll have a breakdown. I'm not going to be using it much, but it's important to have it there. This comes up a lot more in software development. Often you have a feature that comes in, and it's big. It has lots of different pieces to it, so you really do need to break it down before you actually work on each piece. You break it down into tasks. Sometimes the features are very small. They don't get broken down at all, but a lot of the time you do. So it's important to have that step. The next step is, after breaking down the question, I'm going to answer it. Fair enough. And then after I answer it, I'm going to want to validate, make sure I answered the person's question. I'm going to want to double check because I'm trying to be a good speaker here today. That's it. That's my Kanban board. It has just a couple more elements to it. I'll go over those elements and I'll start taking your questions. This really is this simple. Okay, so a couple of other elements. Each step has a, I'm working on it and I'm done with it. So there's two columns to each step. And that's important, and you'll see why as we kind of go through it, but that's a very important element of Kanban. Now, many people do use boards when they're doing just about anything, when they're keeping track of work at home, maybe the kids' homework or something like that, when they're, obviously when they're doing software development or working on a project, people often have a board that tracks the work and they have a big done column at the end. Okay? One of the things that's different about Kanban is that it's done columns for each step. And that is an important distinction. Okay, now, why have the done columns for each step? There's some really complicated stuff we can get into if you're curious. But one of the things that the done columns do is it enforces you to think about whether or not you're actually finished with each step. You don't get to just move the things over. You actually have to obey some kind of rules. So there's done rules. Okay? So there's done rules for each step. All right? Now, just as an example, we've got my breakdown step. So for my breakdown step, if I'm going to break down the questions, how do I know that I've broken it down sufficiently? Well, I'm going to say, for argument's sake, that when I break it down, each of the individual questions I break it down to takes less than 2 minutes to answer. Right? That would be a nice small question. In real life, on our teams, it's typically when you break down a feature, you break it down into tasks that are no more than like 1 to 3 days each. Right? That way you know you've kind of gotten it down to a workable chunk. But here, less than 2 minutes to answer. That'll be my done rule. Then I know that I'm done with it. Okay? For the answer, for me to be done with my answer, I'll want to, this is being recorded, I'll want to repeat the question and then answer it. Okay, so I'm done if I've repeated the question and I've answered the question. But of course, I may not have done a great job of that, so we'll want to validate it. So I won't be done with validate until I've asked the questioner and they have said, yes, that does in fact answer my question. Okay, so there are my done rules. I've got a done rule for each one. Now, in software development, the done rules might be more like for breakdown, tasks are no more than 1 to 2 days. For implement, which would be the natural thing for answer, for implement, it would be the usual things you have for implementation. It's been code reviewed, it's been unit tested, it builds, it passes the basic check-in tests. Right? So those would be the done rules for implement. And then for validate, it might be we've pushed it out into production within a small ring, it's validated, nothing came up, it went maybe into a second ring, and now we think we're good to go, it's done. Okay? So it just depends on what you're doing. You can see the flexibility that Doug referred to. These done rules, they can be specified by your team. The steps, you can make them whatever steps make sense for what you're doing. If this is a list that you have at home, a lot of people use Kanban at home, believe it or not. Those done rules can be, like your list of honeydews, and the done rule is I checked with honey, and she said it was good. Right? So whatever works for you, you can set those rules however you like. But the important thing is that there is a sense of done. This ensures that you have quality at every step, which is something that many other methods don't ensure. But it helps a lot in delivering value continuously to your customers, okay? Which is a key thing about Kanban. All right, now before I get into the very last element, there's only one other element, and then we're done. And I want this talk to last more than just 10 minutes or so. So before I get to that last element, any questions? Yes?
I wanted to point out that another reason for having a done column is without it, you kind of have a push model, whereas with it, it's pull model, which is really, really helpful.
Okay, so talk a little bit about pull. I realize it was more of a comment, but other questions? Yes?
Schedule. So you've talked about backlog, but you didn't talk about schedule yet and how that.
Okay, schedule and probably estimation to go with that.
Yes, cost.
All right, schedule and estimation. Look, they're going to my backlog, right? That's just what you would expect? Yes.
What about how teams transition from Scrum?
Transition from Scrum.
Could you add Scrum or Fall to that as well?
Sure. And instead of saying transition, I have been told by people who love Scrum and everything that this is very similar and it's not a transition, so I'm going to go evolve. Okay, so evolve from Scrum. Yes?
So physical versus digital Kanban.
Online boards. Yes?
If you have dependencies that are date-driven, how do you manage that?
Date-driven. And also, there was a loaded question because there were dependencies in there.
You're breaking down before you've left your background.
To repeat that so people can hear it, I was breaking down the questions early, and I should have left it for that step. But Kanban's really flexible. Yes.
What was the hardest part about driving the change from a cultural perspective?
Ah.
Your team?
Cultural change. Yeah, we have way too many. Yes.
How do you represent this in TFS?
TFS. That's the Team Foundation Server service thing that tracks all of our work as a large group. Yes.
How about Kanban-specific project metrics?
Project metrics. Yes.
Could you talk a bit about sort of how branching models and publishing factor into this?
Branching and publishing. Yes.
Using Kanban across a team that's in different geographies,
Oh, okay.
time zones.
I'm gonna put that with the online boards because those two are related. Yes.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Oh, and I will repeat the questions, as I answer them coming up. That one was about how do you deal with teams spread across geographies? Yes.
What's the benefit of breaking away from time boxing?
Benefit versus time boxing. I hope I get to that one. That's a good one. Yes, in the back.
Two, one is scale, and the next one is management acceptance.
Scale.
And that's whole management chain.
So scale of the methodology or just acceptance?
Scaling to, I work in a team with a bunch of teams, which is within OSG.
Scale to OSG.
Yes, exactly.
I'm within OSG too. Definitely can do it. Yes.
How do you integrate threat modeling with this?
Threat modeling. I'm going to need a bigger pad. Yes.
Can something go backwards in the process?
Backwards.
Validate.
Yeah.
The best or perfect team size that this model can work with, and whether this applies to a one dev kind of team?
Sure. Team size. Yes.
Can you speak to the advantage or agility that you might gain from this versus a pure waterfall model?
Agility versus waterfall. Yes, Amy.
Online, we have a question. Sense of ownership of board tasks doneness.
Ownership tasks. And doneness associated with that. Yes.
How do you measure capacity and priority? Or how do you prioritize things coming?
Okay, those are two different things, and it's not a breakdown, gosh darn it, those are two different questions. Priority. Yes.
Three different expertise on the dev team. For example, one dev implementing one feature.
Expertise. Yes.
Tasks versus bugs in prioritization.
Bugs. And I'll talk about prioritization with that too. Any others? Yes.
Estimation techniques, story pointing.
Okay, I've got that one on there, so we're good. Yes.
How do you measure whether it's working fine or not with this?
So
Kanban works fine.
measures of success. Okay. Any others for now? By the way, we can add more at any time, of course. Yes.
Pipelines and orchestration of parallel work items.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to call that swim lanes, if you don't mind. Okay. Yes.
My team tried this, but they were kind of overwhelmed with the processes involved. Any tips on how to not burden the team with the processes, but still have them do the task?
Okay. So not.
And if I could add to that a little bit, how would you prevent the board from becoming too flexible?
Okay, so not burdening with process and too flexible. Yes.
Sorry, when we should use Kanban and when we should not.
Okay. Short answer to the second one. Okay, no. So the question was when not to use Kanban, or when to use it. So I'll just say when to use.
There's
Yes.
there's a bunch of questions online, but this one is sort of a longevity question. If it's outside of the 2 to 3 week sprint, how do you use it? Use it similar to MS Project.
Oh, okay. So if it's beyond the length of the sprint. Okay, let me get to answering some of these, and then we'll keep moving on. I'm worried that it's so many that that we're not going to get to talk much. Okay. Nonetheless, I will still take more and put them on the board. And I can also promise you that every question that people have asked, even the cultural change one, is actually answered in the book. It may not be, particularly to your liking or something like that. You want some more, but of course, I'm still around. You can ask me. I'm in the whatever that's called, in Outlook, the address book. Okay, so I was going to get to what is the last element here, and there's a reason why I left it off. It's because the thing that's a little bit complicated for folks to understand, but it's what makes this project management. Everything up to here is visualization of work. Okay, there are some done rules. That's a little bit of project management. But mostly it's visualization of work. And there are lots of people, as I mentioned before, who will put stickies on for all of their work and move them along a board and all that. But they still need some other form of project management, ways of tracking their work and making sure things don't go badly, whether it's Scrum or Waterfall or some other interesting method. They need something. In Kanban, you don't need any of those things, but you do need one more element. And that is what are called WIP limits. Now, WIP just stands for work in progress. That is work that you've started, but you haven't finished. Okay? And WIP comes up so much that they have an acronym for it. So, work in progress. What you want to do to make this project management is to control the work that's in progress. That's what makes it project management. Okay? So what are these WIP limits? All these WIP limits are a maximum number of stickies that are allowed in any step. Okay? That's all they are. Now, how you set them is what's interesting. So typically, the way that you set them is you start with the step that's going to take the longest. Okay? In this case, clearly that's answer. Right? And you set that value to be something that's going to allow you to work smoothly, have enough flexibility, but not any more than that, because you want to limit the work in progress. And the reason why you want to limit the work in progress is that's what gives you all of your agility. If you don't have much work in progress at any given time, it's very easy to switch and do something new. You have that agility. It's very easy for you to produce stuff and get it out the door quickly, because you don't have much ever that you're working on at any one given time. It's all getting right through the system. Okay? So you want to keep it low, but high enough that you can get stuff done. So in the example here, I'm going to be answering questions. Sometimes there's two related questions or something like that, so I'm going to want a little bit of flexibility here. I'm going to go ahead and make my WIP limit, I'll make it 3, just to be safe. It's just me. Someone who knows how to do this is complaining, but it's just me. I'm going to make it 3. I could probably knock it down to 2. I don't think I'd want to go below 2. There will be times when I need to do more than one question at a time. All right. Once you have your WIP limit, so no more than 3 questions at a time and answer. Once you have that one, you want your other steps to match their pace to the middle step. And there's all kinds of queuing theory about exactly why this needs to happen. But basically, your fastest possible throughput is going to be when the speed of stuff moving through the board is fairly constant. If this goes too fast, if you pile up too much work here, it's just going to pile up. Right? And then you're going to have all this extra work in progress. And then when you change course or something like that, you're going to have to throw this away. And that's terrible. Right? So you don't want this piling up here. And you also don't want stuff piling up over here without it being validated. So you want the validate to move it right through. Okay? So you set the WIP limits for the other steps to match the pace of the middle step. Now, that may seem slightly complicated. No worries. There's an online spreadsheet that comes when you get my book. There's an online spreadsheet you can grab. It has all the formulas worked out for you. You just enter in some basic information. It sets your WIP limits for you. So in this particular case, I'm going to make this 1 and this 1 because both of those are really quick. They don't need to be any bigger than that. And like I said, for breakdown, most of this stuff is going to fly right through. Okay, we've got our WIP limits. Now, key point about the WIP limits is that they limit everything in that step, both the stuff that I'm working on and the stuff that I'm done. I can't keep just piling on. Okay? So, even though it says 1 here, it can be sitting here or sitting here. There's never more than 1 in the entire step, whether it's done or not. That turns out to be extremely important in getting the flow right. If you're allowed to add more and just build up your done column, bad things happen. The other thing is that I've made a little mistake. This final done column here, it's as big as you want it to be. You're just finished with stuff entirely. So that last WIP limit really just applies to the working on it. The final done column, that's basically infinite. And that's it. That's our entire board. Bill.
Isn't there kind of a similar problem with your breakdown column? Because breaking down any question into another couple of questions is going to be bigger than 1.
Okay, so the question, I'm going to answer it right away. And you can do that in Kanban. You get mail, you get little bugs, you get little things that are very quick to just do right away. You can do that. There are no Kanban police. There is no Kanban army. There are no Kanban zealots, hopefully. Okay? No one's going to beat you up for just making this work for your team. So I'll just answer that one right away. For the breakdown step, the 1 refers to the questions coming in. When they get broken down, and they get broken down, say, into 3 other questions, those are kind of clustered together as 1. But then as I answer them, they become individual. The flow remains the same and smooth. Okay, so let's start getting going. And we'll start with priority. Someone asked, how do you prioritize? Okay. It's a very straightforward thing in Kanban. We've got a backlog. We're going to order it. Now, I could spend a lot of time ordering all these different stickies, carefully putting them in some clever order, and then later on things change. In a few minutes people start complaining or asking about something else or something like that. That would be kind of a waste of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of clump. I'm going to clump, and the thing that's most important is just what am I going to do next. Okay? So I'm in the middle of answering priority. Let's see, we'll do capacities related to that, some project metrics. I'm going to move down a bit. Team size, geographies online, dependencies, super important. Evolving from Scrum, I want to cover that. Measures of success, expertise, put that with dependencies, bugs. And put that with Scrum somewhere. I forget where it went. There, close enough. All right, close enough. Good enough for me to work with. You think, this is a little funny, right? I mean, can I just arbitrarily do that? In an actual team, what we do is we have a daily stand-up. If you're familiar with Scrum, a lot of you have probably used that in Scrum. It's the daily Scrum. When I was doing Waterfall years ago, we still had a daily stand-up. We still met and talked about that day, what we're going to work on, all that sort of thing. So a lot of people are used to doing this. That's what we do every day. Every day, we get in front of the board. We talk about the backlog, we talk about priorities, we talk about any blocking issues, anything people need to discuss. What we don't have to talk about, unlike Scrum, is that we don't have to talk about what we did or what we're going to do next, because that information's right on the board. And you can move the stickies any time of day, whenever you like, okay? Because they're stickies. You just move them. So no big deal. So you just mostly focus on what are the issues of the day. One of the things that you're going to talk about, of course, is okay, do we have the right priorities? Are there any new things that I need to add? Any new questions come up in my particular case, right? That sort of thing. So even though I was pretty rough here in just sorting just a little bit to get the priorities right for the order in which I'm going to answer these questions, I can change that anytime, and you'll notice I will. That's because this serves me. I don't serve it. Okay? Likewise for your teams. So for the priority, we just put everything in priority order. Obviously, your customers, your stakeholders are going to have something to say about that. Whenever they do, we have stakeholders on our teams. They are pretty insistent that their stuff is the most important things in the world. No problem. We take them in front of the board, or we describe it to them, and we say, hey, where does yours fit in? And they can look at the board, and they can say, you know what? The kernel fix is more important than what I'm doing. But I think it's more important than this. Can I put it here? And we'll say, sure, that sounds good. Or we'll say, actually, this is this. And then like, you know, and we have a discussion. It's not terribly complicated. It's very visual. Did I answer the question? Who had priority?
I did. So also, the difference between Scrum versus Kanban is that in Scrum, you lock down the priority, right? So in Kanban, it seems like it just comes in fluid, right?
Yes. So what the questioner who put this up commented on was that in Scrum, the priority is kind of fixed. It doesn't have to be. I've run Scrum teams where we're pretty fluid about that too. But definitely in Kanban, it's very fluid. And that's because in Scrum, for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, it's a particular project management methodology, and they time box what's called a sprint. So you plan out everything you're going to do in a sprint. The sprints last 1 week to 4 weeks. You plan out everything you're going to do, and then you do it. You don't mess with it. And then you get to plan again at the end of that time box, at the end of that month or week. In Kanban, you're continuously delivering, just like I did. Every day you've got new stuff that you're finishing. There is no time boxing at all. So in that case, we have a lot more flexibility, which is very nice. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Awesome. We're done with our first thing. Now you notice a bug came up during validate. Right? No, now you probably wouldn't think of it as a bug, it was a follow-on question, right? But in a certain sense, if this is like work and I'm working on features or tasks or something like that, I got to validate, but there was something that I didn't do quite right. So I just took care of it, right? Took care of it and moved on. If it had been a big thing, if you had a really big follow-on question, I could have written up a new question, new sticky, put it into the backlog and prioritize it. That's basically how it works. Let's see, let's talk about dependencies. Going over capacity here. Okay. Let's talk about dependencies, and you know what? Expertise comes right into this, so I'm going to put that right here. Yes?
I just had a follow-up question on that thing. If that had been a bug and you would put that in the backlog, would you still move priority to the done column?
Yes, I would. Okay, that was like an email. I can answer it right away. I don't have to put it on the board. Quick answer. But big things you want on the board. And we'll get to that again in a moment. Let's talk about dependencies. Dependencies are really rough on all of us. So this is when you have work items, and they depend, you know, tasks, stickies, that depend on other things, right? And those other things aren't ready. One of the ways that they may not be ready is because you have some expertise on your team. There's one particular person who could do that task, and they're busy doing something else, so they can't work on it right away, right? Both of those cases, they're similar in that you have a work item, you have a sticky that gets blocked. So what do you do? So what we do, and Doug's team actually came up with this idea, thank you, Doug, is we add a new marker. We add a new column right in the middle called track. Okay. So let's say my dependencies question has a dependency, I can't answer it. I put it in the track column. Okay. Now what the track column does, first things first, the track column does not count anymore toward my WIP. It's off the board in some sense, but we're keeping track of it. Because we can't work on it right now. We have to wait for that dependency to free up, or in the case of the expertise, we have to wait for that person to become available. Right? So it sits here in the track column, and it's right there on the board. So at our daily stand-up, one of the things we do is we talk about the items in the track column. How are they doing? Is it ready yet? Is it going to be ready soon? Is it next week? When is it? Oh, it's ready now. Fantastic. Okay? It's unblocked. Wonderful. When it's unblocked, goes back. Now we can work on it. Now, if we were at our WIP limit, if we already had, in this case, 3 stickies filling up these areas, then it obviously couldn't move right away. But as soon as that got freed up, it would be at the top of the list. The reason why it's at the top of the list is that it's already higher priority. That's how it got into the board in the first place. It's the top priority. We just couldn't work on it right away. So we just put it right at the top. Instead of pulling from the left, we just put it right there. Yes?
How does this work with bigger, fatter, inter-team dependencies?
So bigger, fatter, intertwined dependencies.
Inter-team. So I've got some other team and it's going to take them quite a while to do this thing that I'd like to be working on.
Right. Yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So in that case, this guy would sit right there and track until that team was ready and it delivered it. Now, if it was a big deal and it was going to be 6 months or something like that, that's what project planning is about. That's when you're really thinking about how you're ordering your backlog, all the usual coordination that you would do regardless of what project management technique you were using. You would have some conversation about how we would time it, right? But if it's, the priority is right and it moves through the board, but they're not ready yet, then we put it in the track and we track it every day. If we say, oh, it's going to be next week, we'll just leave it there and not talk about it as much, but the next week we'd talk about it. Yes?
The stickies, you said, represent work that is scoped to about 1 to 3 days, correct?
Yes.
Which we think of as tasks.
Yes.
But what I'm losing here is tasks that in and of themselves don't deliver value. But the task in and of itself does not deliver value. But,
okay,
but
so
the accumulation of several tasks is what.
Right. So the question here is, each of these tasks, they could be fairly short, and by themselves, they don't deliver value. We could move them all the way through the board, they could be done, but the actual value is in the collection of tasks together, much like how it originally broke down, right? And absolutely, that happens all the time. We just, in Xbox, we typically use a switch of some kind that prevents that collection of work from actually showing up to a customer until all the different pieces are done. So one of the last tasks is going to be switching it off. Did I answer the question about dependencies? No objection? Moving on. With expertise, there's a few different ways you can handle expertise. All right? One is you block on it, right? So it's treated just like a dependency. Another way that I prefer, actually, is that if you have people who are specialists in one thing or another, and they're busy, I hate it when I'm in a situation where one of the members of my staff could be on vacation or sick on any given day, and it gums up all the works. That's really just not a good way to run your team. So what I typically do instead is, if we have that flexibility, if there's someone available, I'm going to give that work to someone who's not as familiar with it, and I'll use the person who has expertise as their backup, mentor, code reviewer, all that sort of thing, right? And then that's going to mitigate my risk. Now, I'm not going to do that for everything. There are some tasks that really, they're big things. They really do belong to one person. That makes total sense. They should own it. But, for some items, you really don't want to put yourself in a situation in which, you're just going to be stuck. So that would be my recommendation. Did I answer the question about expertise?
Yes, it did.
Good. All right. Evolving from Scrum. So, Scrum, for those of you not familiar, I mentioned a little earlier, Scrum has these ideas of time boxes, and there was a time boxing question here as well. I'll just move it through when I'm done. So Scrum has this idea of 1 to 4 weeks. You just focus on a set of work that you plan in advance, and at the end of it, you ship it. So using Kanban, going from Scrum to Kanban is actually pretty simple. You probably already have a board. You're already working on things and moving them all the way through. You already have a definition of done. You've got a lot of you got a daily stand-up, right? You've got a lot of the elements of Kanban already. So it's really not that much of a stretch. All you do is put your steps up on the board, if you don't have them already. Add a done column to each step. Put in some WIP limits, again, using my cutesy little spreadsheet that'll tell you exactly what they should be. And then just track your work on the board. You can still have your sprint planning meetings if you like. You can still have your sprints if you like. You can still do your retrospectives at the end. Those of you who know about Scrum know what I'm talking about. You can do all those things. It's all good. It works pretty much the same. This is what I did when I first started using Kanban. I took 2 of my Scrum teams. They switched over to using Kanban. They worked exactly the same as they did before for a while. After a while, they got really good at Kanban. They got comfortable with it. It made sense. They had adjusted their WIP limits a little bit to match the individuals on their team. Just move them up and down just a little bit, fine-tune it. And after a while, they realized that they didn't need the planning meetings anymore because it was continuous. They realized they didn't need the sprints anymore because there wasn't a beginning and an end. They just keep moving stuff through. They realized they didn't need the retrospectives anymore because the retrospectives were all about when things got blocked and messed up. And all that was happening right in front of them day to day. They could see it on the Kanban board because one of the things that the WIP limits do is that they enable you to see any time work is blocked. If the validate step is taking too long and just sitting there, eventually all these answers are going to be in the done place and they'll be stuck because the validate's taking a long time, right? You don't need a retrospective to notice something's wrong. You'll notice it right then. You don't have to wait till the end of the month. And this is true for just about everything that goes wrong on a team, except for major things like, hey, are we going to have a brand new change in direction? Or, hey, there's a personality problem between these 2 people and we really need to talk about it or whatever else. But the regular things that we used to talk about at retrospectives, they come up all the time, same day, every minute of the day, right there on the board. So we didn't need to do those. So eventually, it just became Kanban. But the initial transition looked just like Scrum. We kept our Scrum Master, we kept everything. Yes?
So usually how much time do you spend every day as a team managing this board?
So the question is, how long do the stand-ups last? And they can vary. They can be as short as 5 minutes. They can be as long as a half an hour. It depends on really what the team wants to talk about. But actually managing the board takes very little time. That just takes a few minutes.
While doing that prioritization as well as like adding of the new features or anything, like you must like use some time, right? Like something like.
So about adding features and all that, doesn't that take up some time? Yeah, it takes 5-10 minutes.
So every day basically you keep adding or removing some of the features or doing the reprioritization, right?
So what all the adding, the moving of the stickies, all that sort of thing, doesn't that take time? That can be done any time of day. All the movement around and the juggling of the stickies, that can be done any time of day. Now, you put your own life at risk if you start changing the priorities all by yourself without consulting with your friends, but that can be done at any time. So it really doesn't take, the stand-up doesn't need to take much time at all. And stand-ups, now, for my teams, we range 3 to 10 people-ish, right? So for that number of people, it doesn't take very long. But Kanban has been run with its teams as large as 75. And it still takes less than 15 minutes. Because again, not everyone's talking about what they did or what they're doing next. You only talk about blocking issues. And those blocking issues are really evident on the board. Do you have a question?
I was hoping you could talk about deployments, and if you have an ops team doing deployments, if you're not set up to do continuous deployment production, you kind of have to, we use a
I've got it on the board, I got it. So this is about publishing and stuff like that, and deployments. I've got that one, yes.
So regarding Scrum, traditionally there's like a sprint planning session where the items are decomposed, the team talks about what they are, design review session, whatever. Are those meetings still held, or when is those conversations taking place?
Okay, so the question, again, going back to Scrum, which we're in the middle of answering, I'll take care of it immediately, was about when do you do all the stuff that you typically do during sprint planning, like breaking down features into tasks and planning out who's going to do what and all that sort of thing. The breaking down into tasks, that's the breakdown step, so it'll just happen continuously every day. Doesn't have to happen in some special planning session. The assignment also happens continuously every day. Who's ever available takes the next sticky. If they can't take it because they're not prepared to take it, something like that, then we have that expertise issue that we were talking about earlier. Yes?
During stand-up session, are you taking notes and sending them to the team? Or Kanban board is the only artifact which is...
So the question was, during the stand-up, are you taking notes and sending them to the team, or is the board the only artifact? The board is pretty much the only artifact. The only time we're sending notes beyond the team is when we finish something big and we want to show off, which happens a lot. Yes?
So in Scrum, you have an idea of like when you would be able to deliver a particular thing because it's either in this sprint or not.
That's about estimation and planning, about when things will happen. I will get to that. Yes?
What do you do when you have an excessively large backlog?
What do you do about an excessively large backlog? You don't sweat it. You don't sweat it. Everybody has an excessively large backlog. They may not realize it, but they do. There's always way more than you can ever possibly achieve. That's called life. Yes?
So this is kind of getting back to the expertise question. What if you have a team where it's really a bunch of small teams where these two people work on this service and these two people work on that service, and you're really not sharing a backlog across the entire team?
So if you have split up teams, we're running a little long on time. So if you have multiple teams and they really don't share much with each other, they're working on their own backlogs, give them their own boards. It doesn't take up much space. Okay, I'm going to move on a little bit. Make sure I talk about branching and publishing and about bugs, and we'll see how we go from there. Did I answer the question about Scrum? We good? Yes. Good. Okay. So what about branching and publishing? So what's going on here is you finish a bunch of work, right? But it's not all, as soon as it comes over here, it's not necessarily really done because it needs to get published out, right? Maybe it's a new release of an app. Maybe you're publishing out to production for a web service or a website. Maybe you're just integrating, right? Maybe you've been doing a bunch of work in a branch and you're integrating it up to the main branch or something like that. There's lots of reasons why there's like a publishing step. What we typically do there is we divide up our done area into its pending integration, pending publishing, pending whatever it is, and it's published. So when it gets published, all the little stickies that were in that little pen get moved down here, and the next set of stickies keep building up until it gets published again. There's nothing really that we need to do other than doing the publishing step, but this allows us to know when things are actually out there. Did that answer the publishing question?
Yes.
Good.
Actually, I'm sorry. So it wasn't my question, but with the publishing, would you do that even at multi-level? Like if you have RIing multiple steps, would you track everything like, oh, now we moved up from an L3 to an L4?
If there were multiple publishing steps, a couple different ways you could do that. If your team is in charge of it, you could have those steps on your board.
Yeah.
If your team wasn't in charge of it, relax. It's done.
Okay.
I mean, someone else is going to take care of it. We don't have to worry about everybody else's problems. Thank goodness. I know some people do, but really. Okay. What about bugs? So bugs are a little different from features. How would you track bugs? So there's a couple different ways to do this. One, if it's a teeny weeny bug, We've already been through this. If it's a small bug, you can take care of it right away. Just take care of it. No big deal. It's just a little bit of noise. You fix it, you take care of it, done. Okay? But there are also bugs that are really big. And they're going to require some design work, and they're going to be broken down into pieces, and they're going to have multiple tasks associated with them. They're going to need to be implemented and validated and all that. In that case, they're yet another task. You write them on the sticky, you put them in the backlog, prioritize it accordingly, you push it through. Did I answer the question about bugs?
Yeah, I guess the biggest part of it is if you get rid of the time boxing, the prioritization of bugs versus features is a significantly easier problem.
Mm-hmm. It is. Kanban's awesome. Much simpler. Yes.
Question about bugs. So if it's a customer reported live site issue, that's a bug that's reported. How do you deal with that then?
So if it's something you can fix immediately, you fix it immediately. Now, I used to run all the websites for Xbox, and typically when we had a live site issue, there'd be an immediate fix. Boom, you just take care of it like answering your email. You just write on it. But that patches it, but it doesn't fix the underlying fundamental problem. So we fix it right away. We create a sticky for the underlying problem. We put it through.
That was my question.
Cool. Let's talk about geographically distributed folks and online boards. So having a physical board is awesome. It's fast. It requires no skill to write new stickies and move them around. It's visible. Everyone in the team can see it all the time. There's never any question about where things stand. It's just there all the time. It's great, right? So that's really nice. I love having a physical board. It makes a big difference. When you have an online board, it's like a web page or something like that, or an app, and it allows you to move around the stickies. It seems the same, but there's extra overhead for members of the team to actually work with it. They've got to launch the thing, get to the page. When they're creating something, they're using the keyboard and the mouse and all that. It's just more work. And if that's a barrier, turns out engineers are notoriously lazy. It's just awful. I mean, yeah, you can bribe them with pizza, but that only goes so far, right? You need to have zero barriers for your engineers to use the system, which is why the stickies and just a physical board and you move it, so easy. That's the way to go. However, if your team is geographically distributed, obviously it's impossible to have that physical board that everyone can get in front of. So in that case, you're going to use an online board. And there's lots of them available, including one that's actually built into TFS. And you can use that. Another one that I really recommend is that there's lots of just scratch pads, just these virtual scratch pads, and they have stickies on them, and you can move them around just like a regular whiteboard. You can use that. Very low tech, very easy to use. It's not quite as good, but you don't have much choice for a distributed team. Did I answer the online boards question?
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Have you used the one in Visual Studio Online, the Kanban board there?
So what about the online Kanban board for Visual Studio Online? I have played with it. It's missing the done columns for each step. I have talked to them about this. I told them, I wrote this book, and there's a problem with your board. And they said, oh, shoot, we'll fix that. So in the next release of TFS, which is, I think, coming out this spring, that will be fixed.
So, excuse me.
Yeah.
So is there like Kanban template which is there with VSO or?
Yeah, it's built in, and the information about it's online.
Okay.
Yes.
From the geography point, I'm still kind of curious about, aside from the visual representation using an online board, the time aspect of it, because when you're all in one place, you can go and meet, for that stand-up meeting for a few minutes, everyone kind of sees what's going on.
Right.
But if folks...
I have never heard, so the question has to do with what about timing? Now we've got an online board, but what about timing for the daily stand-up kind of thing? Just a few minutes, but nonetheless, it's problematic when people are time shifted, right? In every book I've read, in every personal experience that I've had, there is just no replacement for getting together on a regular basis. There just isn't. So someone's going to have to do it during breakfast or at night or something. There's just no getting around it, unfortunately. Yes?
This is going to sound like a joke question, but I'm actually serious. Is the team that is implementing the online Kanban board using an online Kanban board?
I do not know. I'll have to ask them. That's a great question. I have no idea. If I were them and they were all situated nearby, I'd be using a physical board. Okay, let's see. When to use ownership of tasks. I want to get to the one that had to do with big groups. Okay, and I want to talk to that. Scale to, here it is. Scale to OSG. Before I get to that one, benefits versus time boxing. Since we talked about Scrum before, the biggest benefit relative to time boxing is that since you're delivering value continuously every day, all those problems that you have with synchronizing with other teams, right? Because your sprint length, whether it's a week or 4 weeks, whatever it happens to be, may not match up with your customers, with your partner teams, your upstream and downstream partners, all that sort of thing. Bringing in your customer for the demo at the end of the month. Maybe they're busy that month. Maybe they want to reschedule. Maybe there's all this extra stuff around that length of time. And also, if something big changes right in the middle of your sprint, now you're stuck, right? Either you completely blow up your sprint or that you just have to wait. None of that happens with Kanban. Kanban doesn't have any time boxing whatsoever. You can give demos to your customer any day you like. And you should, because it's great to get customer feedback. But you could do it every day. You could do it on their schedule rather than on yours. After all, they're the customer. You should be accommodating to them, right? All those problems go away. One of the great things that happened just with Xbox, one of the things we had to do in order to start shipping once every month, which is what Xbox does these days. You get an update to your Xbox One every month. The website gets updated every day. One of the big issues of getting to do that every month is that we had to synchronize every team's shipping schedule, every team's sprint, whatever methodology they were using. For my team, that was nothing happened. We were good. We could fit with anyone because we ship all the time. Yeah.
So without the sort of sprint cadence then, how do you answer the question if someone says, I need you to do this thing, when will it be done?
Right, so there was the estimates thing here somewhere. Up. There it is. Thanks, okay. Did that answer the time boxing question?
Just one minor clarification. Like, the time boxing feels like it provides you a little bit of a focus at the end of the sprint, and then like if things have gotten unstable, it's a chance to kind of reset and try not to do that again. How do you not just sort of devolve into we've just touched too many things and
okay, so the question is about one of the nice things about the time boxes is that you kind of create some churn in the system, and the time box gives you a chance to kind of get settled at the end of the sprint and make sure that all the bugs are out of the system and you're nice and stable. And the answer to that is, with Kanban, because there are done rules at every step, because you can't move from here to here, because the done rules are right on the board. Everyone sees them all the time. Because you can't move along, you don't build up bugs, technical debt, all that sort of thing. If you do have one, by all means, write it on a sticky, put it on the board, drive through, clean up that technical debt. But it just doesn't build up. We've now been running Kanban for 4 years, actually 3 years, I guess, on my current team, that Doug's the PM for one of my teams. We've been running that now for 3 years. We have never had that issue, ever. Kanban's awesome. Okay, did that answer the question?
just final comment. People do say the same about Scrum though. Like that just doesn't happen. We do see it happen.
People say lots of things about Scrum. I love Scrum. I used Scrum for 8 years. I'm never going back. It was great, but I found something better. Okay.
Eric, can you do a 4-minute warning?
4-minute warning, thank you. And these two are the most important outlying questions, so I'll make sure I'll get through these. Scale to OSG. OSG, for those of you who don't know, is the operating systems group. It consists of only about 13,000 engineers and other folks working on the operating systems. Xbox is one of the groups. There's also Windows Phone, obviously Windows Client. It's a big group. And how do we fit into that group? Well, the way that OSG tracks work is in TFS, which we've mentioned a few times. That tracks all our work items as well as all of our bugs. It's a great system. It's hierarchical. So you can have a work item that's like ship phone. And then it can have lots of children. And those are, all the different pieces of shipping the next version of phone. And then that's going to have children and so on. So it can kind of break down hierarchically. It's a pretty nice system. The key thing, though, is that for it to work, for us to kind of fit in, for our teams to kind of fit in that large organization and all the tracking that's going on using the TFS system, our stickies need to be in TFS. But our stickies are on the board. And I just told you how it was a bad thing to force engineers to try and update something online because they don't do it and it's overhead to them and that. So, I volunteered Doug. and for my other teams, there's a PM on those teams. They got volunteered once a day. When for any of these stickies that we're tracking high up, Doug just sits down in a chair. We used to keep a chair right across from the board. He sits down with his laptop. You did it at the end of the day, as I recall. Updates each of the corresponding work items in TFS that correspond to each of the stickies. If they moved around, he updates them. Never took you more than 10 minutes, usually just a few minutes. Done. We are integrated in. As far as everyone else knows, we're using Waterfall or something to get our work done. In fact, we weren't, and we fit right in with everybody else, no problem. When you think about what about the planning and the top-down planning and all that, that just determines what our backlog is going to be and helps us prioritize and order our backlog. The last piece of this, of course, is estimation, and I'll get to that next. Did that answer the question about OSG? Yes.
Not quite. You may get there with estimation, but I'm still concerned about how that fits with OSG level scheduling and the expectation that particular things will be delivered at particular times.
Right. So let's get to scheduling and estimation then. But otherwise, clear enough on how we coordinate?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So when you're going through something there and you identify another task or it breaks down to more, does Doug go enter those in?
Yes.
I'm assuming that when whatever you're planning with, you got
So
a full backlog.
The question is, when new stickies get created, does Doug enter them as work items? So if those are work items that we're tracking, up in OSG, absolutely. He creates new work items for them, types in the stuff, and there you go.
Is it fair to say that you may have some stickies, though, that you work on and push through that you never...
Yeah, we do some technical debt. The question was, are there stickies that don't end up in TFS? Yeah, we do a certain amount of just work just for the team, fixing up technical debt, cleaning up some things, whatever it might be, little tools that we need that we may not track in the system because no one's paying attention to that. But we always pay attention to it.
Does Doug have an intermediate set of deliverables that he's thinking about above the task layer, but sort of below the OSG mandatory layer?
Any questions about what Doug, is responsible for and all the things that he's tracking should be directed to Doug. Okay, let's talk about scheduling and estimation before we finish up here. So this is a big deal, right? We do have customers or partners, internal partners, or maybe even external partners that need to know when we're going to be done with certain things. They want to do some planning, right? They have a dependency on us. When are you going to be finished, right? So it's important to do estimation. It's important to kind of plan out a high-level schedule, right? The way that that's done is also fairly straightforward. Now, your team may have its favorite technique for doing this. Maybe it's story points. Maybe it's wideband Delphi. Maybe it's t-shirt costing. Maybe it's using project and all kinds of fancy stuff. You can do that. That will all work. It's not any different Work is work. You can plan it out in whatever way you're most comfortable. That's fine. If you want to make it a little simpler or be more Kanban-y, the way to do that, and again, you don't have to do this. You can do it the way you've always done it, and it's fine. And you will produce work at a certain rate, and you'll adjust your estimates accordingly. Kanban turns out to be very quick, but nonetheless, you can use whatever techniques you like. If you want to use a Kanban-like technique, something that's more related to directly what you're seeing here, the way to do that is just to count how many stickies you complete in a given period of time. Say 2 weeks or a month. Just count. It's not complicated. They're stickies. Just count them. That'll tell you how many stickies you do per day on average. Then you count up how many stickies you have, in priority order, right? How many stickies you have that are going to go through that system. Now, those are going to be broken down. So there is an estimation step, but the estimation step is one that's very intuitive. The estimation step is, hey, if we were to break this down, how many stickies do you think we'd get? Right? Which is a very intuitive thing. People can figure that out pretty easily. They'll make a guess. Now, it may not be perfectly accurate, but estimation never is. They'll make that guess. You can write it down right on the sticky and compare and contrast when we actually break it down. You take the total number of task stickies that you think are going to come out the other end. You multiply that by how long it takes for each sticky. You have your estimates. Again, in the absolutely free to you if you buy my book, there's spreadsheets that do this for you. You put in all your things, you estimate how many tasks each of them are going to be, you put in your rates that you get from this, or it calculates it for you, boom, it'll give you dates. Because it's just not that complicated, actually. And then you can do all the scheduling stuff that you like. Okay? Did I answer the question? Great. Ooh. How are we doing, Amy? Do I have time for one more? We're good.
Nope, I think we better.
All right, we've covered all the important stuff. Everything else, including the answers to the remaining questions, are in this book. There's even a quick start guide, a troubleshooting guide, rude Q&As, checklists. Oh, it's the best. Get yours today. Thank you so much for your time.